So the thing was that Casalvento, House of the Wind, was so amazing and it won so much that I became shy, scared to write the second novel because it's supposed to be a triptych. So there's going to be a second one and a third one. So my mother said to me, it was Christmas time and we were decorating the Christmas tree and I put the cheer-ups in the Christmas tree in my home in Austria. And my mother said to me, to Gudrun, why don't you just write something different so you get your mind off, that you loosen up a little bit, and then you go back to book number one. In that moment, the cheer up falls out of my Christmas tree, down underneath it. And I says, Mutti, you know what? That's a great idea. I'm going to go and write a novel. It's called Death Under the Christmas Tree.
Oh, that's so funny. Fascinating people with stories to share, fabulous wines and the best local foods to accompany them, and beautiful places to discover and visit. All of this and more on Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast. Join me for a new episode every Tuesday. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. It's a grey, wet, windy autumnal day here in southwest England, but I'm about to be transported to Tuscany, to the very heart of the Chianti Classico wine hills, and to the medieval borgo of Livernano, near Radda in Chianti, to meet my guest, Gudrun Cuillo, who is the proprietor of the Borgo Livernano Resort, the Casalvento winery, and who is also an author who has now released her second book, Death Under the Christmas Tree, a good old-fashioned whodunit set where else but in the Livernano estate itself. Good morning, Gudrun. I'm really delighted to meet you here again. This will be our second conversation. Our first Italian Wine Podcast episode, 1464, was a good few years ago. I'm looking forward to hearing how everything is going with all your many activities. How are you today, and is it a beautiful day?
Mark, I'm so happy to be on your podcast again. And yes, it is absolutely beautiful, a beautiful day here. The trees are letting the leaves falling and we can see the rolling hills. And it's beautiful and gorgeous here. So I'm very happy that we are not in the rain. So that's a positive part.
Sure. Well, Gudrun, I've only seen pictures of Borgo Livernano from your website, but this beautiful hilltop medieval Borgo looks so idyllic. Can you take us to Livernano? Can you describe it for our listeners who are located all around the world, who may not have ever been to the Chianti Classico, or maybe some not even to Tuscany, but dream of going? Tell us about where you are and something about this extraordinary medieval Borgo that you and your husband discovered and restored into a luxury resort. Well, I think it was 2000, 2002, sometime around then.
So for me, it is absolutely amazing that we are about 45 minutes south of Florence and we are 15 minutes north of Siena. In the rolling hills embedded around woods and vineyards lies the medieval hamlet Livernano. When people come to visit and have their stays there, they are super surprised because they have to go on a Strada Bianca on a dirt road for 6 kilometers. And then you have an intersection and you go down and you have to go through a little bridge where you think you will never make it through with your car. Then you go up the hills and suddenly you have the gate in front of you with the emblem of Livernano, and you look to the right hand side and you can see the vineyards going up to the hill, and then you continue on the road with all of the cypress trees. You bend around, you come around again, and then you enter the Borgo. So it is always a huge surprise for the guests when they arrive.
When was the Borgo built and how many people were living there?
So as far as we know, it is around 1,500 years old. It was first embedded by the Etruscans and then by the Romans. And funny enough that you were asking me this, so there are, I would say, around 25 families that lived there. And it was a cattle farm. It produced wine, olive oil, and also had maize, corn growing there. And something incredible happened 1 month ago. We received a phone call, and a lady was asking if she could come with her mother, her daughter, and her granddaughter to Livernano because her mother is 92 years old and she was born in Livernano.
Amazing.
This was incredible. We said, of course, please come. So it was a beautiful October day. The weather was amazing. And all of his generations, all ladies came. And then she took us to all of the rooms that we had restored and to the room where she was born. Then she was walking around and telling us about the mushrooms and the chestnuts in the woods and how they've lived there. And we had old instruments laying around, and I did not know that those instruments actually were working instruments before the war in Livernano. And then I was asking her, why did everybody leave? And then the astonished answer that she had was so surprising to us because Livernano, all the families had to leave because it was occupied by the Germans. And after that, nobody came back. So, and it was abandoned and until 1953, 1960, I believe. And then it belonged to the government. And yeah, so it's just an amazing history. It was really astonishing. And I'm telling you, Mark, this is going to be a new movie, a new book for me, because I really want to write something about the history of Livernano.
Yeah, gosh, Gudrun, that's an amazing story. I'm imagining because, I've been in the Chianti Classico many times and I've visited some medieval borghi, which the stone buildings and really self sufficient communities of multi families. And the activities, as you say, because it was the time of the Mezzadria, it would have been not monoculture, not just wine, not just olives, but self sufficient farming of, as you say, wine, olive oils, other crops. They would have kept pigs to cure the animals to make salumi, the
Yeah.
prosciutto, and everything else. And that medieval borgo, that medieval living community disappeared then completely until you and your late husband were able to buy this abandoned borgo and restore it to a beautiful new resort that you run now.
And what I also would like to mention is that a lot of people think it's a negativity when foreigners come and buy properties. But in my point of view, I think it's something more positive because who wants to drive around in the beautiful hills in Italy and see broken down houses? So it is a positive because it keeps the economy going. And yes, there are very few small farms left because it's very, very expensive now to make a bottle of wine, especially if you want to be organic. And a lot of people want to have organic wines. They want to drink something positive and good when they take a sip, when they take it into their bodies. And as you know, a lot of doctors always say 1 or 2 glasses of red wine is the best medicine for you. So we're trying to make the best wines. And we have become so sophisticated here in Italy because Tuscany, a lot of people remember us with the straw bottles and the cheap wines, the fiasca. And now we're making wines that reach 100 points in the Wine Spectators on the Decanter magazines. We just celebrated last year 100 years of Chianti Classico,
Yes.
POCG. So it is just really amazing. And sometimes what my idea and goal, I think what every winemaker wants, that when the people open up the bottle of wine, that they can feel the terroir or smell the terroir of Tuscany, of Italy. And I think that's our goal.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Gudrun, just to be clear on this, the Livernano Borgo is a resort where people, where our listeners can come and stay with a restaurant, staying in these restored, beautifully restored Borgo as it was. But the Casalvento winery is where you actually began. That was before Livernano, and that's a separate estate. Is that right?
Correct. It is, there's two hills. So I'm more closer to the city of Radda, a little bit more accessible for people to come and visit the winery. That's why we decided to build the winery on Casalvento and not on Livernano. We purchased Casalvento in 1997, and it was only a piece of large big lands, did not have a winery, did not have a wine cellar. We just basically bought a house. And by sheer incident, we found out that the property had Chianti Classico rights. So that means just it was embedded into the property, which is also very interesting because the Chianti Classico rights came from the Medicis. So I am in the part closer to Florence, and Casalvento was a part of the Medicis. Livernano was not. So that's why Livernano did not have Chianti Classico rights, but
Oh,
Casalvento.
interesting.
So we kept 3 hectares of the Chianti Classico rights in Casalvento, and 3 we transferred over to the Livernano property.
Okay, so you've got the vineyards on both properties. I see you've make a Chianti Classico Livernano as well as a Chianti Classico Casalvento amongst your range of wines, and that explains it because you've
That's
got the
correct.
vineyards actually at Livernano now as well. Well, tell me really what your philosophy of the wine estate is. I know you're entirely organic. Why did you choose this form of farming? It's difficult, isn't it?
It is very difficult, and it takes around 7 years to change it. Well, the number one, the first reason was because I don't want the vineyards around my house. Basically, Casalvento is like the island, and then the vineyards around. I don't want to breathe anything that is not good for me. And when you spray the soil, the ground, it goes into the water. So we have our own water well. It would end up in our water system. And plus, we would inhale in case the wind would go and blows around. So we decided that we would like to go organic. And then also it became, we always were sustainable, but the organic trends became really interesting to me. And I read about this. And we work with University in Pisa together, and with many other people. We get our insects from the United States because you put insects into the field that eats the other insects. And then
Okay,
there are
yes.
roses in front of each of the rows because the very bad insects, the lice, and so forth, they would attack the leaf of the roses first. So then we would know what is in the vineyards. And yeah, that's one part. The other thing is when you're organic, you're basically going back to the ancient time of how wine was made because chemicals at that time did not exist. So Italy, Tuscany, Chianti is very much going back to the old way of making wines. So that means we not only do our vinification in the woods, we also do them in ceramic, we do them in clay. And also we started buying the instruments to have the wine aged in concrete and in infrared. So it's very interesting how the wine develops. So you have 2 different infra, one to the left, one to the right. You have the same type of wine in there, just a different appellation from the vineyards, because we like 650 meters in Casalvento, we have 500 and 450 meters in Livernano. And the difference of this 200 meters to taste that, Mark, is absolutely incredible.
That's amazing. Both vineyards are very high, though, so you're in the higher range of the Chianti Classico. What is the soil, Gudrun?
So we have mainly Albarese stone. So we have a lot of stones in the vineyards. And we did the excavation work around 2 meters down. So we rolled the soil, we smushed, I don't know, you cut the stones very
Hmm.
fine because we're on clay. So they're very, very brittle. And then you have a bit of clay with that. So our grapes, they have to work very hard to live. So the roots are going very, very deep down. It takes them quite some time, but it's positively interesting because we have no irrigation. And the climate changes and the heat during the summertime, and you can see the rose being brown, but the leaves green. So basically, they're working so hard to take the water from the stones and to feed the plants. And it's absolutely amazing. And I always say to my manager, I said, Martina, don't you think we should put some water in there? He says, because it's like giving a kid a candy. And if it starts getting the taste, she wants to have more and more and more. So we believe in our way of winemaking, and so far we're doing really well.
Okay, well that's really really good to hear, and I understand what you're saying about with global warming, with these incredibly hot summers that we've had, not last year so much as the years before. These
Mhm.
higher altitude vineyards will be benefiting from that.
That's for sure.
You're growing the classic grape varieties of Tuscany, primarily Sangiovese, but you also have what we would call international varieties such as Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, as well as white Chardonnay, which I think is very interesting. I've only tasted your Chianti Classico Gran Selezione Casalvento, beautiful, expressive wine, which I
Mhm.
was very impressed with. But can you tell us about maybe two or three other wines which you think really represent the soul of what you're doing?
Yes. So in Livernano, we have the Chianti Classico Reserva, and the Gran Selezione. So all of them are 100% Sangiovese. The only difference is that the first Chianti Classico of Livernano, is 18 months in the barrels or in the amphora or in the concrete. The Reserva is 32 months, and the Gran Selezione is up to 38 38 months. So that's basically the difference. So what that means, the Chianti Classico de Basis is more a lighter wine, easier to drink without any food. But you still have the berries, you have the fruits. It's not tannic, but and not green, but it has a bit of a velvety on the tongue when you swallow the wine. It's like a silk kind of a feeling. The Chianti Classico Reserva is becoming already a little bit more bolder. It's more complex. It starts to have a little bit of a tobacco in there, and sometimes a little bit of leather. The smell of leather, not the taste. And when you go into the Gran Selezione, which is a new appellation started in 2011, it hits the top and then it goes very smooth. So it's very velvety, very calm, very easy to drink, has a very longevity in the mouth. So when you have it, it's a full body, and then you swallow the wine and you can feel the silkiness going down your throat. So it's, for me, absolutely amazing.
Actually, that's a very good description, Gudrun, of for our listeners of this Chianti pyramid of quality going up
Mhm,
from the straight Chiantis to the Reserva to the
mhm.
Gran Selezione. Of course, this being all from the Livernano estate, it's all single vineyard, is that right?
Correct. Mhm.
And what about one of the wines from Casalvento?
Casalvento wines are mainly, we have a lot of Cabernet here. So we make the wine, which is a DOC, a table wine. It's the Janus, which is, the name came from the Roman god Janus, who looks forward and back, where the name January came from. And we actually found that coin in the vineyard.
Oh, wonderful.
And yeah, so it's 100% Cabernet. Now, Cabernet, this is only fermented in oak and also stored in oak. So it's a more bolder, heavier wine. Is a wine that you really can lay down. Perfect for steak, for spicy food as well. So it's not an everyday wine. I think this is wine for special occasions.
So a super Tuscan, a super Tuscan.
Super Tuscan. Mhm.
I know Cabernet Sauvignon now in Tuscany has been around long enough that it's completely has its own character, so different from Cabernet Sauvignon from Bordeaux or from Napa, but still very Tuscan.
Even the color of the grapes themselves, the leaves, everything is different. So it's very interesting. I mean, I'm not a winemaker, but through the years of the excavation work and the growing, and I just planted another 2 hectares. I ripped out old vines and put the new ones in. And just to see the work that goes in there, and then you have American rootstocks, and then you have to go and then they drafted, the Sangiovese, the different grapes. Even in the fields, there's so many different types of Sangiovese in there because we are like on the northern part, on the top part, is a different type of Sangiovese than there is on the bottom part. And it's absolutely amazing. And then you have to go through when they after 2 months of having them already planted, to go through and you have to clean the stones away so that the little babies can go and start to grow. And then sometimes you can see that the American rootstock still wants to come out, and we have to cut them out by hand. So we planted 5,200 plants per hectare. So it's 10,400 plants where you have to kneel down with a pillow, not to hurt your knees so much because of the stone, and scrape those little leaves off because you don't want to interfere.
Gudrun, I can hear the excitement you still are getting from being a wine grower now, being actually, and I know you do a lot of things yourself. You're in the vineyards, you're at harvest, putting the grapes, selecting the grapes as they go onto the conveyors to be crushed. It's very much part of your life being a wine producer now. Is that something that I know you never intended to be
No,
or dreamed of this, but is that something that's just really part of your rhythm of life and something that you have grown to really love?
I believe that I'm a person who sees life in a different way. And I was so fortunate enough because I started out as a makeup artist in Vienna with cats, and I moved to New York. From there, I went down to Palm Beach. I met my husband, a completely different lifestyle than, going back to New York with my husband because of all the Broadway shows that he did. If somebody would have asked me when I was 16 years old what my life would be like, I would not know. And I think there's many different ways of explaining because God gives us a guidance, but you yourself have to figure out what road you're going to go and take. And open up your eyes, take the opportunities if you see something, and don't be afraid to start something new. I mean, learning a language when you're already 40 years old, a new language, for me, this was not scary, it was exciting. In the United States, the life passes me by, okay? And I was so occupied doing things that really didn't matter anything, that when I came to Italy, I could not wait to have the Monday coming because my people would come and work, and I see the flowers growing, the garden gets me vegetables. Everybody think the vegetables just come, to the grocery store, but they also have attendance of people to make them grow. So I cook out of my garden now. I never cooked before in my life. Before I met my husband, I didn't even know how to boil an egg. And now I'm like, I cook every single day. And to see the rainbows after it rains, or to smell the soil when it rains, or in the morning when the spring starts, has a completely different smell. In the summer, you're surrounded by rosemary, by lavender, and all of these different notes of smells that you have. We don't have that. That's why everybody in the United States, the only thing what we do is we have perfumes. In here, we have our perfume in the garden. It's amazing.
That's really beautiful to hear. And of course, your first novel, Casalvento, House of the Wind, I know it's not biographical in its scope, but in a way, you're describing a character, Erica Germoglio, who has this similar discovery when she comes from the United States to a wine estate that she's inherited, and her life changes completely. I
Yeah.
guess that mirrors in many ways emotionally what you feel.
Well, a woman, we all are very sentimental, and we love stories. And yes, I invented the characters, but while I was writing it, and while when she had to come to Italy, Erica became Gudrun, or Gudrun became Erica. And I wanted to people to understand that it's not easy to change, and you need to be open for a change. And when you're open and willing for the change, you can see the beauty in life, and you can receive love, and you can give love, and that makes your face smile. And yes, and it gives the story about how to learn about the wines, and about the language, about the city of Florence, about the city of Siena. There are recipes in the back. And I think that's why I won so many bestsellers with the book, because it had everything in there. It is also a guidance of when people come to Italy or to Tuscany, if they read the book first, they already have a bit of an idea what is a Chianti Classico, what is a Sangiovese, where is Siena located, where is Florence, the city located, what does it have to offer, and food, what they should order. Yeah, so I think that is all in there. And of course, the suspense of what is going to happen and the big surprise at the end. So yeah,
Yeah, I
it,
love that. And then you sent me your second book, Death Under the Christmas Tree, which is completely different. It's a detective murder story, set, of course, in Livernano. So I think it's fascinating that this beautiful Borgo, this resort that we could all come and stay at, our listeners can come and stay at, is actually the setting for a murder mystery. Gudrun, I'm just going to read a page of this just to give people a little flavor, both of Livernano, but of the book, because it introduces some of the characters, not all of whom are very savory or even likable, but it's been a book I've really enjoyed reading. It's very enjoyable. So I'll just read a little piece from here. This is the beginning of chapter 2. The picturesque stillness of rolling hills draped in sleeping vineyards greeted William as the family's fleet of limos rolled through the iron gates towards Livernano. The ancient landscape eased the ache in his back as he breathed in the sweet air flowing through the open window. He'd forgotten how this open countryside made him feel as a young man when he'd escaped to the magical setting with his new bride to enjoy their honeymoon. Cypress trees lined a long road, casting shade from the late afternoon sun. Even Susan appeared enamored with the setting, gaping at the endless vistas of vines, waiting for the first kiss of spring to bloom with grapes for the coming season. Anne arched an eyebrow at the row of brown plants. Remind me to order a couple of cases of wine. I can get them shipped back to the States. Far be it for his sister to enjoy the serenity of the countryside. Her thoughts never strayed from her beloved alcohol. William's mother had been the same way. It was her constant inebriation that left her 3 children motherless by the time William was 12. He hated seeing Anne descending that same slippery slope, but she wouldn't listen to him or anyone else offering advice. Dust flew from the tires of the cars ahead as they navigated a narrow road. Forests, olive groves, and the endless landscape of vineyards crowded on either side. Then a barrel with a sign announcing the entrance to the small resort of Livernano appeared. A stone wall looking as if it dated back to the Romans hugged the road, and the car climbed up a steady hill. Rooftops capped with rustic clay shingles materialized. Tuscan sandstone covered walls and created decorative archways around doors. The close-knit building of the small village harkened back to a time when people lived simple lives. The car slowed as it pulled onto a gravel drive. When the driver stopped, he glanced through the rearview mirror. Welcome to Livernano.
you are hired.
No, I think that gives a feeling of your book, but also of Livernano itself. I think you must be the only wine estate in Tuscany that has a murder mystery set on that. And it really describes the Borgo very beautifully. It's such a perfect setting because I don't want to give too much away of the book, but the couple are bringing friends and family to Tuscany, to Livernano, where they had their honeymoon to celebrate an anniversary. And then it all goes a bit pear shaped when the protagonist is murdered quite brutally with a very interesting murder weapon, which I absolutely love. I am going to give that away if you don't mind. He's murdered with a leg of wild boar prosciutto.
Oh well, you could have said the next time that they found meat fragments on his
Yes,
jaw.
that's true. Yes. No, I really loved it. It's the sort of book that once you start reading, you don't want to put it down. As I say,
It was so funny because it started. My mother is amazing and she encourages me. She says, writing is like work. You need to put 2 hours a day in there. And even if you just write 1 page a day, if it's the end of the year, you're 365 pages. So she's very determined and calls me every time we speak, how many pages have you written so far? So the thing was that Casalvento, House of the Wind, was so amazing and it won so much that I became shy or scared to write the second novel because it's supposed to be a triptych. So there's going to be a second one and a third one. So my mother said to me, it was Christmas time, and we were decorating the Christmas tree, and I put the cheer-ups in the Christmas tree in my home in Austria. And my mother said to me, to Gudrun, why don't you just write something different so you get your mind off, that you loosen up a little bit, and then you go back to book number one. In that moment, the cherub falls out of my Christmas tree, down on underneath it, and I says, Mutti, you know what? That's a great idea. I'm going to go and write a novel. It's called Death Under the Christmas Tree.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I did. And everything just came together. Like I see people when they start fighting and things, and I said to myself, man, that would actually be something interesting. And I already have the next book because I want to write many of the series. And very interesting, I did a research. So there is a lady in Venice, like Donna Leon, who writes this series.
Yes, I love her books.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's one in Florence, also a woman, and I think she's English. And then there's one in Lucca, but there's none in Tuscany in my area here. So that's why I invented. Livia is actually a woman from Milan who is the head inspector, and Inspector Mauro was thinking of that he would get this promotion, and then this woman shows up, and she's the one who is above him. So there's also a little bit of a thing inside, the carabinieri, inside the office, where who is going to be better, and who has a better idea. And I didn't know then what I could call her. And then my friends who Helmut, who did my cover for my first book, said to me, why don't you just call her Livia? So this is shortcut of Livernano. I said,
Oh,
hey, that's not a bad idea. So Inspector Livia. So everything has a die, and also, of course, some of the characters who worked on Livernano were in the first book and are now in the second book. So there are similarities, but it's just a completely different thing.
one thing that is a theme that seems to be in both books, and I think probably in your life as well, is this theme of strong, independent women. Perhaps in this book, as well as in the first book, women that have to fight against a world of men and their prejudice. Is that something that you wanted to develop? Is that something you see in your own life?
Yes, you have to fight all the time. If it was in business, in previous business that I did, and things, I was always undermined and was never allowed to really speak up or give my ideas out. And then if you did give it out, and you did not give it out to the public, but to one person, they stole the idea because it was a great idea. And I think with everything that you do in business, you need to be a team. It's not an I, it's a we. So in order to be successful, you have to create yourself around with good people. And it's like an apple, and there's one rotten apple on it. Get rid of that apple and just make sure that all the apples are beautiful and clean, in harmony, that they can grow. And that's how I do business here. That's how I work with my people. My employees have been here since the beginning. I am in the second generation here in Casalvento.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I see the boy growing up, and now he's 27 years old, who is working with the father and the mother. The fiancé of Domenico is working in Livernano, and the husband and the father team, they live on the property. The secretary, 20 years. The tractor driver, 23 years.
So, in a way, you brought this Borgo very much back to life, not only for the guests that come to the resort, but also for this community of people that are making it all work and working in Casalvento as well as Livernano. Gudrun, I'd like to return to Livernano now. I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about what you have there so our listeners know if they want to come visit. And I also want to hear about the restaurant.
Our vision was that when you have a hard drive, a hard travel behind you, and then you need to go on 6 kilometers on the travel road, when they arrive, that something very special is awaiting them. So everything was restored to its original splendor. We went to Siena, to the archives, to see how many houses, and we were only allowed to rebuild the homes that had connecting walls, even though they had no roofs on it. And basically, it took us 23 years to completely finish, because now we are finished. But we want to make it that you sleep in the heavenly beds, you have oversized king beds, beautiful down pillows, you have spacious areas, you have a fireplace in some of the places in your thing, you have the modern amenities, that you have a beautiful oversized shower, you have the bathroom, you have the bidet, you have a little living room if you are in the suites, some of them have a balcony, and then in the center, in the piazza, is where everything gathers together, where we communicate, where we have our dinner during the summertime. We have a pizza oven that is there since 1,000 years because Livernano was also in charge of baking the bread. So it's really massive big. And then we have a beautiful chef, a great kitchen. Everything is organic. So, and we cook the Tuscan dishes, but with many different courses, not too much on the plates because, we eat with our eyes. And even I love to go there for dinner. Then you have the Boise walks, where we have walks that we have a sign where you can go through the woods. You're able to go truffle hunting. You can go mushroom hunting. You can ride the bike. We have the Oreca, which is very famous. That is always in October, where they ride the old bikes and they pass in
Oh,
each.
the Eroica. The Eroica passes through you, does it?
Yes, yes.
That's a ride that I've wanted to do myself.
Yes, not through my town, but it goes from Siena to Radda. It's amazing. People are riding these bikes who have to be at least 30 years old for
Yeah,
208 kilometers. That's 12 and 13 hours.
yeah.
It's unbelievable, but it's amazing. It's a tradition that is beyond me.
It's something I've long wanted to do, and I've got to not leave it too long because these things don't get any easier.
Yeah. Make sure you wear 2 sets of underpants.
No, I do
Sorry.
a lot of cycling. Actually, the key
Oh,
with cycling is not to wear any underpants.
okay. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But we also have a
But we won't
church.
go there. Yes.
Yeah.
And you have a church, and I know you have music events, and it really sounds like a fabulous place for any of our listeners who want to immerse themselves in the Chianti Classico heartland,
Yeah.
to come and visit you, and then to enjoy reading your books over a glass of your wine. Gudrun,
Yes.
it's been so nice to meet you again here, to have an update on all the things you're doing. And I don't know how you're finding the time. You're running the resort, you're running the wine estate, and you're writing books. So I
It's
really
very easy
admire.
because sometimes I have to wait. I love to do wine tours and I want to give them in person. And while I'm waiting for the customers, I'm secretly writing, some pages, reading over my own book. It is so much fun because sometimes I feel like, where the hell did I come up with this idea? It's like,
Yes. Yeah. Like that murder weapon. Yes.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
my next book is going to be called Il Lupo, the Wolf, and it's going to be
Oh,
so funny because I have to write the book so that I'm not scared when I'm by myself, and I cannot make Livernano a negative place. It has to be always positive, and yeah, I'm
notwithstanding that a murder took place.
yes. And now it's people are coming for a wine tour and they want to know if I'm here and then sign books and give them a little bit of a story of my life. And yeah,
Well, that's really really great, Gudrun. I'm really looking forward to visiting you myself. It sounds
yes,
such a
yes.
fun place,
Don't wait
and
too long. Don't wait too long. The banana is
well,
opening up on the 15th of March. So
okay. Well, we'll stay in touch, and I hope all our listeners will also seek you out. Livernano.it, is that correct?
that's correct. And the books are sold on Amazon.
Okay, great. Well, Gudrun, thank you so much for. I know you just got back from a long trip. I'm delighted you've been our guest this morning, and I look forward to meeting you, hopefully, perhaps in the spring. But in the meantime, thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And talking to you is always such a highlight. So today, my highlight was talking to you together with you.
Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Bye.
We hope today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast has transported you to somewhere special. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at italianwinepodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.